Hi, welcome everyone to Florida Wildlife Advocates. My name is Chuck O'Neill and I'm going to be your host for the next hour. Today we're going to be discussing the FWC meeting that was held yesterday, and then we're also going to be discussing HB 80 that has been proposed by Senator Harrell. And then we'll be watching a couple news clips about those items. And I'll be joined today on camera with Shannon, Gordon, and James. And then the three of us will discuss the news items. And then you're welcome to either call in or post on the Facebook video that you're watching now in the comments, post a question or a comment, and we'll talk about that. So it's kind of a news discussion format about Florida wildlife and what we can do to advocate on their behalf. I'm so happy you're joining us today. This is our initial broadcast. And if something goes wrong, it's because this is our initial broadcast and we're just trying to figure this all out. But hopefully this is the first of many podcasts, and you'll be able to join us every week, if not live. This will be recorded, and you can go to either Florida Wildlife Advocates page, or you can go to Speak Up Wekiwa's group, or the Right to View Wildlife group page, which is the old No to 2 group page. So you could go to either of those on Facebook and watch this. But I would suggest if you want to ask a question, you go to Florida Wildlife Advocates Facebook page and type in the comments and type in your question. So with that, I do want to say welcome to Shannon and Gordon and James. How are you all doing today?
Doing good. Glad to be
Fantastic.
Here.
Okay, you glad to be here on the maiden voyage?
Yes.
Good. We're gonna talk with our guests today, and we'll also talk with people who call in. If you call in, you can call in on 407-399-3228, or you can click on the Yardstream link and also call in. So there are a number of ways to get a hold of us during this next hour. If you're watching it as a replay, you're not going to be able to call in. So we have some background noise somewhere, but okay. Welcome to the maiden voyage. Everyone, try to silence your dogs and husbands and wives and anybody who wants dinner. So let's start off, Dean, if you would, with the news report from the Florida Channel on the FWC meeting. If we can pull that up.
Okay. Hang on one second.
So far, it looks pretty good, guys, right? Okay, good.
The last time bear hunting was legal in Florida was 2015. The Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission authorized it, then called it off early, when more bears than they expected were killed more quickly than they expected. They haven't authorized another one since. But on December 11th, commissioners told staff to develop a plan for another bear hunt.
I'll be very succinct. I would like to see a proposal from staff for a bear hunt.
The meeting in Lakeland was FWC's first since Florida voters approved a constitutional amendment that elevates the right to hunt and fish from statute to constitution. It also makes hunting the preferred method to manage wildlife populations. FWC staff gave an update on bear management without mentioning hunting, but it was all the public wanted to talk about.
The recent vote to enshrine the right to hunt and fish into the Florida Constitution
includes hunting and fishing as a preferred method of management. And this means that hunting should be the first tool considered for managing bears in areas where they're overpopulated.
What is the point of conservation? Is it just to raise the population of these animals enough so that they can be cruelly hunted? If that is the answer, I think it's a very twisted.
There's a gap between the words conservation and preservation. Conservation is seeking the proper use of a resource. Preservation is for delicious jams and jellies. That's how I look at it. Like we need to be talking, this is the Conservation Agency, we have this resource on the landscape, and we're putting presentations together and we're not using the word hunting in it.
Under the system of law, wildlife is considered public trust. Our black bears do not belong to anybody. The government, as trustee, is expected to protect all wildlife for the benefit of the public.
The people overwhelmingly spoke in the election about utilizing hunting as the primary tool to manage populations, and I do believe we're at the state in which we do need to manage some populations. It is not a solution to the trash problem, nor is it, being applied as that. It's allowing the public access to a resource that's out there.
Chuck O'Neill is one of the activists who opposed the 2015 bear hunt. Before the vote on the hunting and fishing amendment this year, he said he was afraid it would make another bear hunt inevitable.
If a person has a right to hunt, then they have a right to hunt all game animals, and bears are a game animal, and therefore they can hunt bears.
Chuck Ashanique helped create the amendment, and before the vote said another hunt would not be inevitable.
It doesn't increase the chances of a bear hunt, right? All it does is it gives FWC the ability to ensure that our hunting and fishing is maintained in perpetuity.
He spoke again at the December 11th FWC meeting.
With the amount of bears that we have, and it's one of the larger populations in the Southeast, and we still don't have a hunt since 2015. I mean, I've been working on these issues now for 16 years, just on the bear issues. It's ridiculous that we can't come to some form of agreement where this is the number that we can safely take and have it be sustainable.
Immediately after the public comments, commissioners told staff to develop a plan or plans for bear hunting. Vice Chair Stephen Hudson asked for more information on the number of bears in Florida. The latest estimate presented by staff was over 4,000, but that's not a recent estimate.
The numbers are from 2015. When will we have a new stock assessment?
We should be getting the new estimates on abundance about 2029 for the whole 6 parts of the state. We'll be getting them. That's the next time.
So it's going to be 14 years between the two studies?
Well, that's when the abundance estimates will be analyzed. We're collecting the data now, and now the plan is to have a grad student from the University of Florida crunch those numbers starting in 26, but they'll get about 1 or 2 years per year to estimate.
Commissioners don't have to wait for updated population numbers to take a vote on hunting, but they did want to know how many bears should be out there before the population can be maintained while hunted.
What is that threshold? Right? Is it 4,000, 8,000, 20,000? I think that's part of what I would request for staff to come back.
Commissioners told staff they want a proposal for bear hunting as soon as possible. Staff said they'd be ready to present something in May for commission action. For the Florida Channel, I'm Melissa Klinsing.
That was hard to watch.
Yeah, it was hard to watch. We have some veterans of the No to 2 campaign who fought against the passage of Amendment 2, the right to fish and hunt. And a lot of what was said, Shannon and I were sitting there in the audience in the second row, and as the speakers came up and they said, the public overwhelmingly supported this because they wanted hunting to be the primary means of managing wildlife. And during the campaign, we were saying this is the problem. This could be interpreted as saying that hunting would be the primary means or the preferred means. And, of course, they called me a liar. They said, we're fear-mongering, right, James? we're fear-mongering. Of course, that's the only reason why this is being passed is so that something that happened in Oregon would not happen here, where hunting and fishing will be made illegal. That was the sales tactic. And here we are a month away from the election, and they're already saying overwhelmingly people wanted hunting to be the preferred means of wildlife. What do you think about that, James?
I mean, not surprised in the slightest. I think that, you and I knew the whole campaign that they kept saying, oh, it's not about this. It's not about this. They kept gaslighting and acting like nothing was really going to change. But here we are. So hearing that, it was very infuriating. But like, what's the phrase? It was shocking, but not surprising. I'm not surprised at all that these guys turned right around in less than a month. And I like that they kind of showcased that fella before and after. It's exactly what we expected. And this constitutional amendment is going to be used repeatedly all the time on all levels. And we knew that was the case. And they told the public that wasn't the case. And surprise. So not surprised, not surprised.
Yeah. Shannon, you were there with me, and some people were saying, "Oh, don't say the word hunt, because then that might tip the commissioners off about having a hunt. So let's not say hunting." And what was your impression of the commissioners? Do you think they were thinking of a bear hunt prior to the public comment? You're muted, Shannon. Shannon's muted.
Other than the one person who
Go ahead, Shannon.
always. Can you hear me now?
No, yeah, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
I said, other than the one person that always brings it up, I was impressed that all of the people that were on our side, when they talked about the bear hunt, they were very respectful. They weren't, fear mongering. They weren't, attacking. They were just being factual. And but no, I don't think the commissioners. I think everybody in that room was caught off guard. We talked to some of those people, and they definitely did not see that coming. Yeah, but I'm not surprised that the pro bear hunt people brought it up. But what I think that it's misleading is that they're saying that 67% voted for hunting to be a management tool, but they have no idea why those people voted. It could have been the majority of fishermen voted because they thought their fishing rights are going to be taken away. People didn't understand what exactly the amendment was, that they thought, oh yeah, people should be able to hunt and fish because it was ambiguous. But they shouldn't be saying that 67% of all the people are agreeing, because we know that at least 75% of the population does not believe in a bear hunt.
Yeah. Gordon, I know you've been involved going back to 2016 in keeping the bears off the menu as far as the FWC and their hunting appetite. What do you see after watching that? What's your initial impression, and what do you think needs to be done?
Well, you see, Chuck, what I'm seeing in that meeting there is that, we just got Amendment 2 passed. Like the pro bear hunt people, they figured we just succeeded in passing Amendment 2. Now's our chance to strike. And that's problematic. They're waiting for a weak point, a chink in the armor, just go and seize their opportunity to propose another bear hunt. And that's what concerns me. They're exploiting every weakness they could possibly look. What's the word for it? They're exploiting every weakness they could possibly touch down on, and that to me, that's fearful. That shows me that they're using these devious, these unethical tactics just to get what they want. They know there's a growing opposition to their practices of wildlife management and to the current system of wildlife management. They know there's more and more people speaking out against it. They know there's more people who want to watch wildlife, less people who want to hunt. That's not to say we're all anti-hunting. I mean, I mean that's another tactic I want to bring up, is that a common fear-mongering trick that they'll use is to say, oh, all these groups are anti-hunting, which is not true. Wildlife for All, some of their founding members were hunters at one point in their life, but they agree. They know that the current system of wildlife management in this country, it's not fair. And so that's what I'm afraid of. Like, they're using this new meeting, the hunters at that meeting, to uphold the status quo and get back to bear hunting again. They know, since it's been nearly a decade, that, oh, the outrage has died down. Maybe we won't have as big a public outrage, but we gotta make this issue public. We gotta ensure that people know what's going on, so we don't have another bear hunt. I could not live with myself if there was another bear hunt in this state.
Yeah, I think you're in good company there. Let me go to Trish. Trish has joined us. Trish, do me a favor and turn your phone sideways. No, there you go. There you go. Now we get to see your full on Trish. Now you weren't at the meeting yesterday, were you, Trish?
No.
Were you able to see that clip that we just played from the
Oh,
footage?
yes. Oh, yes.
What was your initial impression?
I'd like to be rational and sound as intelligent as everyone else, but really, I'd like to go in my car and do a primal scream.
Yeah, yeah. I think that a lot of us who were sitting in front of Commissioner Lester when he said that,
Can't imagine.
we were like, what just happened? Because they keep talking about how we need to concentrate on science and not be driven by politics. We need to be driven by science and not by politics. So you have this bear management group. They're all scientists. They're all biologists. They're all studying indications of population and what needs to be done. And they come up with this recommendation that said no action is needed at this time, right? That was the science. And then it goes to the commissioners, and, practically leaping out of his seat, Lester says, I have a suggestion. Let's direct staff to come back with a design a bear hunt.
Mm-hmm.
So it was all about politics. It wasn't about science. And, to Gordon's point, Gordon, you have a master's, right, in wildlife ecology? Is that right?
I do.
What do you think your probability right now, the way things are, of being appointed to the Florida Wildlife Commission as a commissioner? What do you think your probability?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's not going to happen, because thing is, I just got my master's and I'm still trying to gain experience in my field of work. So I could probably not be a commissioner right now. And plus, I think you got to have like several years of experience under your belt for that. You have to work your way up. Well, if I'm correct. What?
To be a commissioner, though, to be a commissioner, the 7 guys up there, not working on the staff, but from what I understand, the commissioners are appointed. It's the number 2 most desirable volunteer or appointment, right, is to get appointed to the Florida Wildlife Commission. And I don't see how any of them, I don't know, maybe one of you knows better than I do, are any of them biologists or wildlife? Do any of them have a doctorate or a master's in wildlife ecology?
I would imagine at least one of them does.
None of them.
No, I don't
None
think
of them?
one of them.
None of them have any
I mean,
doctorates?
their appointments are purely political. So
Yes.
I think that, I mean, the governor appoints them. So the idea that like they have like certain qualifications, I mean, maybe on paper for funsies, But in reality, these are people that Ron DeSantis picks who are his buddies who he thinks are going to do his bidding. So your background, your CV, your resume, I don't think that actually matters.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm not surprised.
Yeah. We have a question or a comment from Rhonda, and Rhonda says that biologists said they wouldn't have population estimates until 2029. And let me see if I can read it. And current estimates say bears are only at 51% capacity in the current habitats. Yeah, this goes back to let's let science dictate policy. And that's what Mike Orlando was talking about when he gave the presentation in the beginning. And by the way, anyone who wants to watch the whole meeting, you can go to the Florida channel in their video archives and pull up. It's a 2-day process, in this case, ordeal. And so you can watch everything that happened ahead of time. I know Shannon and I were both there. It gave public comment. There were several other members of our Noted 2 group that were there to give public comment, and we appreciate it. I think, Shannon, what were there, about 28 people there in all?
I believe it might have been 29 because they said it went over the hour allotment, but they were able to get everybody in, and so it was like maybe an hour and a half. But we had good people. I mean, people, Center for Biological Diversity spoke, Defenders of Wildlife spoke, Humane Society spoke, and it's just, to me, Mike Orlando gave an excellent presentation, and for a commissioner to just come up with that was, to me, very disrespectful to the staff with all the hard work that they've done.
They have an agenda. These commissioners, they know.
Yeah.
And it's a brave new world for staff. We talk about the staff being science-based and the work that they do being important and data-driven, but this was never about that. And I'd like to think that they were wise to what was coming, and I think they're probably surprised at how it came hard and fast compared to what they expected. But that was the whole point of this, was to bulldoze over their recommendations and on behalf of the constitutional amendment. And I think that this is what their new world is, and they need to get used to it.
Yeah. Well, it was. I don't know. James, you say you were surprised, but not surprised. I think I was in a state of shock.
Me too.
That they were so brazen about it. It wasn't, let's talk about Mike Orlando's report and dun, dun, dun. It's just like, here, let's go straight into a hunt. And
but why? Like, why are you so like? Of course they did. They knew what they were doing the whole time. There was the mask is off, and I think that this was. I'm not surprised in the slightest. It's offensive and it is shocking, but this was their whole game. And why? What incentives do they have to pretend anymore?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the staff was surprised. I actually asked one of them, "What's up with this?" And they said, "We have no idea. This was never discussed with us."
Yeah, and
Makes too much sense.
Let's give credit where credit is due. Mike Orlando in Bear Management did an excellent job of studying the science. When they were asked, when are we going to have the population estimate? And Brian got up and said, we're going to have it in 2029. And they're like, what? Why so long? Oh, my goodness. Why does it take so long? And as I tried to point out in my public comment, bears are not easy to count, right? They're reclusive. They hide in thickets, and forests, and they don't line up and raise their paws, and you go, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. And even when they did the estimate back in 2015, there were only, I think, 700 uniquely defined DNA samples, and then they extrapolated. They said, well, based on the population in this area, we have a similar habitat over here. Then let's say there's that many bears over here, and that's how they came up with the 4,050. Now, Dean, I was wondering, and I'm throwing you a side curve here.
Okay, go for it.
Can you pull up that graph?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this is going to be exciting, folks. This is on the fly, Dean, put to the test. There it is. Very good. So in my public comment, I brought up this graph that I put together using figures from the FWC. The bottom line is graphing the number of bears that are killed in roadkill incidents every year, starting from 2015 through 2023. So that's the black line at the bottom. And the top line is the number of million miles a day driven on Florida roads, and that comes from the Florida Department of Transportation. So, for instance, when we look at 2023, there were about 655 million road miles driven in the state of Florida. And you say, wow, there's only 23 million people here. Well, there's 23 million people. A lot of them are driving, and then you have tourists who are here also, and they're driving. And that's 650 million miles a day being driven. And you have roughly 4,000 bears. Now, my point that I tried to bring up was there's no reason why this correlation shouldn't be this way, because you double the number of bears, you're going to double the number that are killed on the road if the same number of miles is driven. So you see the blue lines there, those are parallel lines. And the top one is the rate of increase in the number of road miles driven. And then if you apply that to the number of bears killed on the roads, you'll see that we're below where we would expect to be in all years since 2015. And what does that mean? That means that the population that existed in 2015, by virtue of this relationship, is less than it was in 2015. So you know, it's like, well, that's kind of strange. Why would it be less? Well, we started out with, let's say, 4,050 bears, and we killed 300 in a hunt. So now you're at 3,700 plus bears. And they're breeding at the same rates, so their population is down. And you'll notice something is very interesting is in 2020, during the height of COVID, how the black bear population started to rebound. You see that line from 2019 to 2020. And then we're getting closer to being back to the 4,050 number from 2015. So I'll open it up to the panel. Does anyone have any comments or questions about this graph?
Is this something that the FWC ever uses as a tool?
No.
To gauge, the mortality?
Not to my knowledge. I discussed this one time with, we were trying to figure out how can you predict the number of bears that are going to be killed in any year, and instead of just counting them and go, okay, this is how many it was. And I had mentioned to Dave that, maybe there's a relationship between the number of road miles driven. And he said, it might be the case. So I finally sat down before this meeting and graphed it out. And sure enough, it's shocking. I showed it to Sarah Barrett, and she looked at it and she goes, oh my goodness, it's obvious there's a correlation between these two. So, maybe it'll become something in the future, but the other thing is we're above the number of bears that were killed, Gordon. We're above the number of bears that were killed back in 2015 in the hunt, are now killed by road miles driven. And if
Big problem
that's
here in
the
Florida.
case, yeah, if that's always going to be a problem in Florida, right? There's
The
never
problem
going
with
to be.
habitat connectivity, like these fragmented patches of wilderness are separated from one another. And to get to those other patches, the bears are going to have to cross urban residential areas. And that usually brings them to roads, which leads to motor vehicle mortality, something the panthers have had a big problem with down south.
Yeah, and Chuck, if I can jump in on that,
Sure.
The question that we're avoiding when we talk about hunting bears is the fragmentation of habitat. That we need to, and I know the Florida Wildlife Corridor is one concept for how we create continuity and have between habitats, but we talk about, it's kind of like decoupling carbon from economic growth. We can have more miles driven in Florida without having more bear kills because we just need to have the density where we've already created interstates and roads and development, doubling down in those areas and stop building roads through these other areas where the bears have habitat. That's the $1 million question that none of these people really want to talk about. That limiting development and untouched places, that is the long-term solution. And they're going to point to increased bear strikes, and they're going to say, well, we need to hunt. The real root solution to having less bear-human interactions and less bears getting hit by cars, it's how we use land and where we authorize development and where we build new roads. So we're putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound by not talking about that topic.
Yeah,
I agree.
The way we grow, and this is one of the things that Orange County did in this last election, by creating a rural boundary, and also by requiring the planning department to have a tool that they can present to commissioners to show what the cost is of building that subdivision out in that forest that's 20 or 30 miles outside of town. Because you have to run utilities out there, you have to have police out there, fire department, all the necessary infrastructure, and we're not seeing those items brought up. So I was wondering, Dean, could you read the comment that came in from Mark Patterson?
Okay, 1 second. I'll just put it up on screen here. Okay, that's a chunky one.
Yeah. Can you read that, Dean?
Yeah. Let's see. I live on the edge of the Ocala National Forest. The most bears I have ever seen on my property was, excuse me, I gotta get this mic lower. The most bears I have ever seen on my property was during COVID. I believe it was because there were no people in the ONF. Thus, there was no trash in the forest. During COVID, bears were wandering around more looking for food. Consequently, they got hit more even though there was less traffic.
Okay. That's an interesting observation. Mark is on the edge of the Ocala National Forest. And that blip in the road kills during COVID, that's something that is very curious, and as to why that happened. I know in my own neighborhood, and I live right next door to a state park, the wildlife came out and just were like, this is our planet again. There's a big old male turkey, wild turkey in the middle of the street, and he just opened up and it's like, this is mine now, So, yeah, I think they did they did come out more and were less fearful of cars and traffic and people in general, and that may have definitely contributed to that. All right, Dean, let's go to the second news clip and play that, if you would.
Okay, you're gonna have to give me a moment to find that one.
Yeah.
All right, just go ahead and give me a minute.
Yeah, I'll give you a minute. In the meantime, you know, we've just started this, and hopefully, this particular format, I'm hoping, because we can share it, and I'm hoping everyone who sees it will share it onto their page and share it into groups that they feel are concerned about wildlife advocacy. And that way we can build up a band of people who are informed on these issues, who want to participate on these issues, and are willing to do things like go to FWC meetings, Shannon.
Chuck, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
So it's a twofold question. One, when can listeners expect to tune in weekly? And then also, what platforms, like I know I use Apple Podcasts, where can we subscribe?
Yeah, well, right now, we're working on that. Every Thursday at 6, we're going to have this. So you guys are all welcome to come on. You don't have to come on every Thursday at 6. I invited a couple of you because you're young and energetic and could stand in as hosts when I'm not here, because I won't always be around, even though sometimes I like to go to Canada and enjoy our second home there. So, you know.
Speaking of Canada, you know what's going on in Alberta?
What is?
Their commissioner over there, their wildlife commissioner, is stripping back every possible wildlife protection he can. Like, he made it legal for people to shoot problem grizzly bears. He permitted cougar hunting in provincial parks? Provincial parks?
Mm-hmm.
He permitted cougar hunting in areas where it was previously absent. He lifted all the trapping restrictions on wolverines, river otters, and coyotes, and so on and so forth. He's, I think, offering bounties on wolves. Like, he's paying people to bring in wolves that they kill. It's like none of Alberta's public is being consulted on these issues and these decisions, and I do not believe it reflects the viewpoints on the majority of Canadians. I really hope their commissioner does eventually get replaced with somebody who actually has a scientific background and somebody who isn't a mouthpiece for special interest groups. Sorry if I got off on a tangent.
Yeah, well, it's kind of
That's kind of like what we're hoping for.
Yes, it sounded like Florida.
Yeah.
But,
So not only the United States, but Canada has it pretty bad too. Why do you think they still have the commercial seal hunt?
Oh yeah, well, you know, that's why some of us are looking to move up there. Is because they, you know, in this little area where I've got a second home, they take it for granted, the wildlife. And their deer come out at night and they walk through the streets, and every imaginable animal that you can think of, because it's right next to a provincial park, as you were saying, Gord. These animals come out. It's like COVID, like Mark was talking about COVID here. They're not afraid, and they come out and they walk through the neighborhoods, and the people are like, oh, there's a coyote, there's a bear, there's a this, and they don't freak out. They don't call FWC, come out and shoot it. Oh my goodness, there's a wild animal in my neighborhood.
These people want to coexist, you know.
They're just trying to make a living, right? And they're not. They don't have plat maps, right? And they don't have. They don't look at city limit signs. It has been their territory for millions of years. And
ironically, the year we stopped Florida's bear hunt, the following year British Columbia banned grizzly bear trophy hunting, and the First Nations involvement in that is to thank.
Yeah, that's interesting. I did not know that. You know, a lot of things that we do here in Florida reverberate around the rest of the world. And you would be surprised the number of people that reach out to me from different countries. And, you know, for instance, the Rights of Nature initiative that we had in Orange County.
Yeah.
And we heard from people all over the world doing things, and Canada as well.
Colombia and I think Ecuador passed the rights of nature laws.
Colombia is the leader. They put it into their constitution long before we ever got started, and they already have case laws, 60-some cases developed with rulings about that. So,
hey, Chuck, I'm going to interrupt real quick and just say I do not have another link in my email here. So unless you have something you can resend me, that would be good. We are already at 6:45. So I'm not sure how big a topic this next one was.
Okay, let's go to another graphic that I sent you. Maybe you have that, and that's the verbiage of House Bill 80.
7?
No, it was 80. This is a new one, and if you can't pull it up, I can wing it. Dean.
Okay, well, it is a vertical graphic. Didn't have time to put it, so it might cover you up here. Hold on.
All right,
All right, there it is.
No, that's not it.
No?
It's,
Okay.
It's the other one.
Well,
it's
then...
a lot of writing.
Oh, yeah, I don't have that one.
Okay.
Either, so.
Okay. Well, people can pull it up and read it online. It's House Bill 80. It was introduced by Senator Harrell. And what it does is it says, okay, you can do these things in state parks, but you cannot do these things. And the things it says that you cannot do is build golf courses, build pickleball courts, and things like that, which is very good. But on the things that you can do, which are hiking and things like that, it also says fishing and similar conservation things, right? And, you know, call me overly cautious, but I think we need to keep an eye on this as it goes through, that someone doesn't add hunting into acceptable things to do in state parks. So, James, I know you're with the Sierra Club, and you have Dave Cullen over there that watches those kind of things. This would be an amendment that they would slip in at some point.
Yes. So this bill, it's good news, but Tallahassee, we know what happens in Tallahassee, and so you can guarantee that there will be amendments that we find offensive. And so I think one of the big takeaways from the No to 2 campaign this year is that that kind of slipped through the cracks a couple of years ago when it passed the legislature, a year and a half. And so we need to be very diligent and watch this as it moves through committee, because you bet that there are players in the legislature. There's going to be a lot of behind the scenes hijinks. And if we're not careful, a bill that we think is good will turn out to be bad. So that's going to be on us to keep an eye on that.
James.
Yeah. Go ahead, Shannon.
I'm sorry. Is there a companion bill in the Senate side?
Not to my knowledge, but also I have been in Vermont for 3 weeks, and I don't know exactly what's happening up to date at the moment. So I can answer that question pretty easily, but as of right now, I haven't heard of one, but there could be one. Mm-hmm. There will need to be one.
Yeah, because I worry the same people that were pushing for yes to 2 will be the same people that will try to influence these people to put in slide.
And they will, and they will. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
Question, James. You said you were in Vermont, right?
Yes.
Have you worked with POW, Protect Our Wildlife?
No, I was up there to not interact with humans and organizations, so I can't tell you anything meaningful about what Vermont's doing.
Yay.
Okay. Yeah, there's a similar organization to Wildlife for All. It's called POW, Protect Our Wildlife Vermont. They're based in Vermont, and they're also hoping to seek reform in wildlife management, state wildlife management. Sorry, I just want to put that out. I didn't mean to get off on a tangent.
Yeah, but I mean that's kind of the third thing that we were going to talk about today, and that's we have 13 minutes left. That is the organization Wildlife for All, and Wildlife for All has been instrumental in moving forward with reform of wildlife management agencies. And is what do you all think is the future of that? We'll start with Gordon, because I know you were on the call recently. What do you think the future is and the possibilities of reforming the FWC's commission?
I think that with the growing number of people who value intrinsic, sorry, let me rephrase that, who put an intrinsic value on wildlife, whether it be hunters, hikers, bird watchers like myself, I feel with the more people taking up an interest in wanting to change the system, I do feel like the future is bright for reform, for wildlife management reform. We've seen it in New Mexico. We're seeing it in California. I know Connecticut's very progressive. They're the only other state besides Florida with a significant bear population over 1,000 that does not allow bear hunting. But much like here in Florida, there's a lot of people that want to bring bear hunting back to Connecticut. And I know there's a lot of other people in states like Colorado and Massachusetts that want to reform the system as well. I know a lot of Coloradans were very disappointed. I was devastated at the defeat of Proposition 127. Now, Proposition 127 would have banned the trophy hunting of mountain lions and unregulated trapping of bobcats. But unfortunately, Safari Club International, the Sportsman Alliance, they all had their dark money from DC. They all had their lobbyists come in and say, "Oh no, vote no on Prop 127. It's anti-science. It's a bunch of animal rights drivel." One of the commissioners actually said mountain lions self-regulate. In fact, there were some staff at CPW that supported Prop 127. But unfortunately, fear-mongering and misinformation on behalf of groups like Safari Club International prevailed, and Prop 127 didn't pass. And we know as Floridians the pain of losing an amendment or having the wrong amendment passed, like what we had with Amendment 2. So our friends over in Colorado, they know exactly what we're going through. So it's a nationwide movement to reform the system, and I really hope with more people taking an intrinsic interest in wildlife, whether it be a hunter or a non-hunter, I feel like the system may be bright. I feel like the future may be bright. Sorry, I'm not myself tonight.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you. I'm with you there, Gordon. On the last point, I want to bring this up because Mark put it in the questions. He was talking about Blue Springs State Park does not allow fishing in the spring run. Would this bill force the park to allow fishing in the spring run? That's a very good question. And that's something that I think we need to, when I saw fishing in there, I'm like, do they allow fishing in state parks? Because I don't remember seeing people fish in Wekiva State Park, especially in the springs. And I would not really want to see a lot of hooks thrown into the water where kids are swimming and stepping on the bottom of the floor of the springs. James, you're tied in with Sierra Club, and what do you think about that?
I mean, any restrictions that exist on hunting and fishing in Florida is up for grabs, is on the chopping block. And so I would say that anywhere that we currently restrict or limit or prohibit hunting or fishing, all it's going to take is a citizen or a business owner to show up to a meeting or submit a comment to get the ball rolling to challenge and unravel the prohibitions or limits. So I think that's kind of I don't want to say terrifying, but the really disappointing slippery slope that we've created with the passage of Amendment 2 is that any prohibition, any limit, any restriction whatsoever is now going to be subject to challenge. And the idea that we as environmentalists are going to have the reach and the time and the intel to play whack-a-mole. I mean, the fact is there are going to be there's like fishing in places that we don't want it, hunting in places that we don't want it. They're going to happen because we're not going to catch them. And so we're going to have to really be strategic in the years ahead on figuring out, where are these prohibitions and limits and restrictions most important for the environment, and kind of keeping an eye on those areas. But whether we like it or not, there's going to be other jurisdictions where people are going to push these things, and we're going to turn around and say, well, shoot, now there's fishing allowed in this area where there shouldn't be fishing, but it's now allowed. So it's going to be a game of whack-a-mole. I mean, really, until we have a governor that appoints a new commission that, is more on our side about these issues, because now the law is on our opponent's side.
One thing's for sure, DeSantis has to go.
Well,
understatement of the year.
We have a question here from Judith, who says they don't allow fishing at Birch Park in Fort Lauderdale. I think that's a state park. It may be a state park or maybe a county park, but I think you just pulled up a graphic there, Dean. About,
yes.
Is that from the Florida State Parks?
I'll just bring it back up in
Yeah,
here. And yes, I just I did a Google search and this popped up, and of course, it's about fishing in Florida State Parks. Tell me if there's somewhere you want me to go, but it basically does allow in designated. I keep seeing the word designated fishing areas, so which is maybe why you haven't seen it.
The wording of that bill needs to be scrutinized because if it just says that these are allowable things, carte blanche in any state park, that could be very problematic to these designated non-fishing areas. Right, Shannon?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't read the whole bill, but I think wouldn't other laws in place have to change, or will this just override all the other laws?
Well, how they, interrelate with other laws, that's the million-dollar question. And,
Right.
that was the question with Amendment 2. How's this going to impact the way hunting is regulated in the state?
If you go on to the Florida Constitution now, on Article 1, the right to hunt fish is already in there. It's the 28th. They've already got it in there.
Yeah, they've already they didn't waste any time.
No.
They didn't waste any time. Gordon, these measures and they all revolve around the FWC, right? Because even Amendment 2 says this doesn't in any way disturb the authority of the FWC. So it comes down to the FWC. And if the FWC is strictly a political actor and an extension of the governor's office, and the governor wants to see hunting, in state parks, or wants to see hunting bears or things like that. Obviously, he didn't respond. He didn't veto HB 87, which was called the Stand Your Ground against Bear bill, but it was a political theater, right? It was.
What do you expect? It's DeSantis.
Yeah. So if the FWC continues to be a political arm, and these decisions are made from a political basis of what's politically popular, then the FWC, the only way to change it given that Amendment 2 is in the Constitution now, the only way to change it is to change the FWC, right? And
So we're going to have to work closely with FWC to ensure that the staff that are working there, are on the side of the majority of Florida's public opinion, and on the side of science as well. And I'm hoping once we get who out of the state, out of the office, and get a proper governor, we can sort of. I don't want to. How do I say this? How do we gain his trust? We have to get that governor who's environmentally minded, so that he can clean up the commission, put commissioners that actually know what they're talking about in place at FWC, and so that way we can have an FWC that properly reflects the public opinion of the majority of Floridians. As you all know, the majority of Floridians do not support a trophy hunt for black bears. I know as somebody who was at that protest, so many people were opposed. There were avid hunters opposed to the 2015 hunt. So the fact that we do have some ethical hunters that do support our movement to reform state wildlife management, it's reassuring that they're not all Safari Club International members who just want to hunt animals for the hell of it. There are some people who don't think our current system of wildlife management, especially here in Florida, is just. But yeah, I do feel like what's needed is that we're going to have to get FWC on our side now that Amendment 2 has passed. And honestly, FWC right now, not everything they do is based off the science. Like, bobcats are still hunted and trapped in the state, and yet despite having a 90% decline in the Everglades National Park alone, people can still hunt and trap them. And did you know Florida still allows snaring of wildlife? Snaring's pretty inhumane. I just got to tell you, an animal has to suffer a slow, painful death. I may not be anti-hunting, but I am very much anti-recreational trapping. Recreational trapping, it should not exist in this day and age. And there are literal hunters that do not approve of recreational trapping. It's pretty disgusting. I like how condemned it is. Go on.
I like the second the idea that having a pro-environment governor is the most powerful thing that we could possibly do for Florida's environment, and I would add he or she.
He or she.
Right.
Yeah.
I meant to say that.
I would like to say that we have to get the people of this state more engaged. It was something that we saw what Clay Henderson mentioned, that, the people we see at the FWC meetings, the hunters are there every single meeting. They engage with the FWC, and it's not like we want them to be our friends, because the staff really has no choice, because they want to keep their jobs. So if the commissioners tell them they have to do something, then what are they supposed to do? But there has to be more engagement. We have to have more people show up. We have to have more people hold the FWC accountable, the legislators accountable. And it's just, we have to show that we're engaged. And I think that's something that we kind of fall behind on right now. So that's why I think it's great that we're getting out there so people can see and understand, because people aren't getting information. So that's probably why Amendment 2 passed, because people were getting misinformation that they believe to be true. So, but I believe that we have to get people involved. If people care, then they have to be part of the solution. And so.
I agree. Like, the more people that are on our side, the more we can prevent measures like Amendment 2 from passing. And I feel like the lobbyist groups, they're all taking advantage of the fact that people didn't know any better. They're manipulating the masses into supporting them. They know the grand majority of the public is unaware of a lot of the issues going on right now, and they use that to their advantage. Sorry, Chuck, go on. Didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's all right. This is a great way to wrap up this first inaugural edition of the podcast, because what you were saying, Shannon, is exactly why we're doing this. What has become abundantly clear to me after being involved with the No to 2 campaign is the the hunting societies, for lack of a better word, kind of the right wing, has developed podcast ways of reaching individuals, maintaining an audience, having an audience of 7.5 million people. One podcast recently I heard about, and they're in people's houses on a regular basis. It's not 60 days before the election. And you get to that point where you're 60 days out from an election, it's too late. You know, you have to educate people on these issues and get them engaged and get them going to meetings and feeling like they have a stake in our future. And if that does not happen, I don't see that we're ever going to get a pro-wildlife governor, right? We're going to get someone who's a populist governor who just wants to do what, you know, the latest rage is. And, you know, you get this Franklin County sheriff, and he goes in and he says, oh, you know, we have bears all over the place. And then a legislator comes in, oh, I'll solve this problem. We'll let people shoot bears to, you know, come onto their property or go into their house. No, not on their house, go into the property. Well, not even on their property, in the woods. But they feel threatened, so you can shoot a bear, right? And this is the problem, is we don't have a broad base of people who are educated on wildlife issues in this state. A lot of people move here from wherever, and they don't even realize that we have black bears in this state. Or all this other great wildlife that we have here. And then they view it as a problem and call FWC, and they come out and start to eradicate. We develop, you know, these policies, pro-hunting policies that are decimating our wildlife population. So this is the first, and hopefully the first of many, and I do appreciate Shannon, most of all, and James for joining us, and Gordon for bringing his expertise, and Trish for getting online, and for all those people who were online engaged, Judith and Mark and Rhonda, who are online and engaged with this. So this is the first. We're going to do this every Thursday, come hell or high water. And I want people to be able to come on and see what's going on, discuss these issues, ask questions, and get engaged. And that's the most important thing, is engagement. Because without that, we all lose. We lose our wildlife. We lose our way of life. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone for watching, and tune in next Thursday, the same place, and feel free to share this video, and hopefully we'll build up this audience to something that can really affect change in this state. So once again, thank you all, and have a great evening.
Thank you, Chuck. We
You too.
appreciate it. Thank you.
One more
Thanks,
thing, Chuck.
guys.
Where will we be able to find the recording of this?
On the Facebook page called Florida Wildlife Advocates.
Sounds good. Chuck, thank you so much for having me. You have a great
All right,
night.
Gordon. All
Have a
right,
great
you too.
night.
Thanks all.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.